let's go ahead and dig in. Aislene, you are one half of the Feminist Critique, which can be found here on the twitch.tv. Your co-host is Gracie, and you've got a great channel. I'm looking forward to be joining you tomorrow. We'll be talking about some movies. And you are a filthy Canadian. And, I am. Yep. But that's okay. We decided that we'd allow it on the show. And so we've had a few Canadians, I believe. And I'm so happy that you agreed to hang out with me today and chat a little bit and share your story. We're here and we're inviting you in the spirit of building leftist unity, strength, and pride, and power. Excuse me, a little bit of pride too, and which is what we need in this, in the leftist spaces. Like, there's a lot of leftist infighting. It's a meme in itself, and I think that this is pretty chill. Well, pretty cool. Yeah, both. Yeah, thanks. Chill. It's chill. It's cool. It's and this is what we do. And I'm really happy to have you here to sort of tell us a little bit about your story, your pathway left, what you're up to these days, and of course, if you could share any nuggets of wisdom for our viewers out there. And then of course, we have the questionnaire there at the end. And then of course, we'll have some time if you have any questions for me and maybe some questions from the chat along the way. So chat, good to be with you today. Good to be with you, Aislene. And let's go ahead and begin the Leftist and Chill interview, where we chat about where are you now? What are you up to? We mentioned you're in Canada, and I think you got some projects, and I think you got a full-time gig, or you got a professional job that you do, and you also have this sort of leftist related side project. What else do you do? What are you doing these days? And feel free to elaborate on any of those things that I mentioned too.
So I live in Halifax, Nova Scotia, and I'm a traffic reporter for Halifax, Ottawa, and then sometimes Toronto, where I just kind of go on to Google Maps and I'm like, oh, look, there's an accident here. And now here's our sponsor, so it's it sounds a little bit more professional than what I just, put out there. But and then the thing that the Feminist Critique is kind of doing right now, like the big thing is on 420, we are going to be doing a fundraiser that's going to be happening at 8 p.m. Gracie wrote like a little thing. So, but we're essentially going to be raising money for bail fund organizations. We'll be watching Reefer Madness. We'll also be exploring the inhumanity of mass incarceration, for-profit prisons, and the failed war on drugs. So we're just raising money to get people out of jail, and we're hoping to raise about $1,000 for that. So we really hope that people will come out and chill with us and hopefully get that money raised.
Well, that's absolutely fantastic. I have some interviews lined up for that day. Maybe I can raid out to y'all.
We would really appreciate that.
Yeah. I was wondering if I can go back really quickly to you were chatting about the work that you do. You do some of the traffic reporting. Have you ever thought about like putting like an audio effect on your voice where it sounds like you're like, and then like have like the sound of a helicopter? You know what I mean? And you could be like speaking through a radio. Oh my God, you could totally sell it.
There's actually like other traffic reporters, but they're like out west here in Canada that do go up in a helicopter in like some of the bigger cities. Yeah. But unfortunately, my organization doesn't have that much money. I mean, they barely have enough money to pay me a living wage. So there's that. So they sure as heck not getting a helicopter. But I mean, I don't know if my boss would be down for that. They're like really like very particular, especially when it comes to Toronto traffic. Like they said to me, they're like, your voice is too slow for Toronto traffic. You need to like speed it up a bit and just get to the point. And I'm like, okay, cool. I'll work on that.
Wow. So, get to the point.
Yeah.
Wow, that's harsh.
It's like the hardest thing for me because I like to elaborate.
Well, thanks for sharing that. You got this. You do the feminist critique with Gracie. I think you have a schedule each week. It seems like you have this really great like sort of format where it seems like you return to certain themes throughout the week. Did you want to touch on that? I'm interested in that. I think I might want to dig into something like that. I'm wondering what you do and how you came upon that.
So like when we first started the feminist critique, it was very like all over the place where we were kind of doing a lot of experimentation, right? And seeing what worked and what didn't. Like there was one week where we were doing quote unquote something fun for Saturday nights, where we would do like one week we ended up starting to read the Mummy script with a few other leftist streamers. But there were like some things that just weren't really like working, like maybe only 10 people would show up, right? So we were kind of just like, it turns out just reacting to reactionaries is the most popular content because we love to dunk on people. And it's funny because Gracie was just talking to me about that because we do a lot of correction. Gracie does a lot of research when it comes to things. Like there was one night where we did like a whole thing about imperialism and like, you know, the different like things that the CIA has done. And we learned a lot on that night and we did so much research. It was kind of a quiet night, which we were like, oh, okay. But also like, you don't know, there's other people who are streaming and, you know, so it's not like, you know, you can't get mad because a bunch of people are not coming to your streams because, I mean, you don't know where people are at for, you know, one particular night. So, but we try to keep like somewhat of a schedule. And if we kind of divert to the schedule, we like to let people know ahead of time. Like lately, we've kind of had a lot of issues with like Gracie's mom was in the hospital for a week, so I was streaming on my own. And then like we've been both feeling a little bit burnt out, so we've kind of been taking a little bit of a step back, but we're kind of getting back into it. The last, so
good. Sometimes a break's important. Breaks are good.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I've said that before to people, like if you don't feel like streaming and you're having an off day for whatever reason, do not stream. Just do not stream, because if it turns out to be a quote unquote bad stream or like you don't feel good about it afterwards, you'll just feel worse. So it's just best not to, because we're all trying to have fun on here. Like that's why people are coming out here, because it is an escape, right? Like life kind of sucks sometimes, right? So like we're essentially like an escape for people to dunk on reactionaries or, you know, watch videos or whatever, right? So you kind of have to try to at least, you know, remember that part that, you know, people are out here to have fun. And if you're not having fun, your audience is going to know that. And it's okay to not be okay.
Good shit. Good shit. Loving it. Yo, let's move along. I'm in no rush, but we'll just get to move this on here. Yeah. Hey, so the next question has to do a little bit about your leftward bound journey. For whatever it's worth, you don't have to say how you identify ideologically or politically, but you're here on this show, and I consider myself a leftist, and you've at least headed towards me in this show. I'm wondering, you know, if you could explain, you know, throughout your life, maybe how what's gotten you here to this place where you are politically and ideologically, and you could feel free to let us know how you identify if you do.
So I kind of always felt like I was a little bit more on the left, like growing up. Because I knew as a teenager, even though I didn't quite, like, things just didn't really connect quite yet, but I knew that I hated George Bush, that he was a bad person. Turns out I was right. So, because, he's a war criminal, right? And so is Dick Cheney. But so I was kind of like against them because, like, they're assholes, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then as I got older, I kind of went a little bit more right wing. Like, I joined the military. I was listening to my dad a little bit too much. My dad is very conservative, right? So I kind of went down that road, especially with, like, the military thing, because we were told growing up, like, you should join the military because there's a lot of great opportunities. Both my parents were in the military, and that's how they met. And I was a military brat growing up for a little bit, right? So, and I mean, like, my brother's still in the military up here in Canada. So I joined when I was 20. I wanted to get out of, and I was working, like, a shitty job as a security guard. So I just wanted to get the hell out of Hamilton. And, like, that in itself, like, the military changed me. Like, I won't get into that, but I considered myself pretty conservative up until about 2012. I also got into politics more around 2008 with the Obama election. Like, I was happy that Obama got in, but I mean, he's a lib. And does anyone remember Ray William Johnson? Like, okay, so he had, like, a show on YouTube called Equals 3, but before that, he had a show called Political Gangster, where he would talk, like, politics, almost like a Philip DeFranco sort of way, right? But then he, like, switched it over for whatever reason. And it worked for him because he had a really popular YouTube show. But that's what got me into politics, was Ray William Johnson. Then I moved to Philip DeFranco, who is still, like, so I considered myself, like, a libertarian, like, around 2012. And it's funny because Gracie was also kind of in the boat where we both thought we were libertarian, but, then we grew up and we're like, actually, we care about poor people. So,
Did you know each other at the time?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
So we actually met on Guy Online in 2010.
It's called what?
Guy Online.
Guy Online.
No, Gaia.
Gaia. Okay.
Yeah. So we met on there through, like, role playing, and we started talking that way, and, like, we started writing a story together. And then we just kind of have been talking ever since. And then we slowly got into, like, this fandom where it was called Outlander, right?
Yeah.
It's a TV show now, but it was a book series.
Okay.
So we both, like, got into that, and then we started a podcast. But we didn't really have a lot of content because, once the seasons end, it's like, what do you do? Yeah. So that's when we came up with the Feminist Critique as a movie podcast. And that's, ultimately led to this, being on Twitch. Because we were both very interested in politics, and we were talking to each other anyways every single fucking day. So it was like, hey, why don't we, like, do something with this? So
Gracie was right there along with you on your leftward bound journey.
Actually, Gracie has probably been the person who made me way more left, because I was pretty lib for a bit, like, up until, I would say, like, within the last year. Like, I still, like, I knew that the police were bad, right? But I was still like, well, not all police officers, right?
Yeah,
so
some are cute.
But, like, then it was kind of like Gracie who, not just, like, that issue, but, like, she was the one who, like, called me out and was like, no, actually, it's this, and this. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, you know what? I trust you, and I looked into it a little bit more, and just like especially when like you're on this journey and like learning a little bit here and there, you just kind of come to like your own conclusions, and you go, hey, wait a minute, shit is fucked up. Like maybe we should change this.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, it turns out you're the libcuck, and Gracie's based as fuck.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. All right.
Oh yeah.
Interview's over.
Yeah. Surprise! I'm
Gracie
the one. Surprise! I'm the one who's been a lib this entire time. Well, that being said, though, like I mean, like I still had like leftist ideologies. Even 5 years ago, it was just like that slow descent into like full leftism.
All right. And we can talk a little bit more about that in a minute as well. So we've talked a little bit about your sort of where you are now, what you're up to, some projects you're working on. We've talked a bit about your leftward bound journey. I'd love to chat with you about, if you could take those experiences, maybe synthesize those and distill those experiences into some pieces of advice. Perhaps you can go back in time, hang out with a younger version of yourself. Or, of course, more realistically, there's someone in chat or someone who's going to watch the replay on YouTube or on Patreon. Maybe could benefit from some wisdom from Aislene. So what do you think? What's something you could share with the world?
I would say never stop learning. Like where you are at this moment, it is a constant battle to become a better person. So, and when somebody calls you out on something that like they find offensive or whatever, like be graceful, take that step back. Like obviously do not react at that moment, right? But like listen to what they have to say, take a step back, reflect on it, right? And understand what they're saying, because like they're saying it for a reason. And also like don't take your entire platform and throw it at somebody, because especially if they're like a smaller streamer or whatever, like dude, that's not fucking cool. But yeah,
cool. Keep learning.
Yeah, I mean it's easier said than done, but it's something that like is probably the most important thing that you can do.
Excellent. Well, thank you for sharing that with us. That's really nice. So we're going to go ahead and wrap up this portion of the interview of our chat with the Leftist Inquisition. It's our questionnaire. I think I've sent you more or less the most updated version. If not, you'll have to do a little improvising here. You're going to be great. Oh, I'm so excited. This is a good way for me to get to know you. A good way for my audience to get to know you. And
it's funny because I've actually, not with you obviously, but I've answered this question once.
Okay.
And it was about a year ago.
Yep.
Or so
your favorite word. Go ahead. Just for those audio people.
See, that's the problem. I don't really ever think about that sort of thing. Like my favorite word, I always like very much have been in the moment where it's like, yes, my favorite word is currently, like ramen, because I'm thinking about eating ramen or whatever, right? So I think it's just kind of a, case by case, or like, things that bring like good memories, like the moon. Like that's a good word for me because I like the moon, Yeah. I really have an answer just because I'm very indecisive, and I can never pinpoint like a favorite thing.
Okay, so your favorite word is the moon. Next, your least favorite word. I'm joking.
My least favorite word is the sun. No. That's God. That's like another one where I'm just like, my mind has suddenly gone entirely blank, and I guess I'll just say moist because that's a gross word.
Moist. It's fine. That works. That's an acceptable answer.
That's a basic bitch answer.
People hate it.
I guess bitch. Bitch is also a word that I don't particularly like, but you know, I'll say it anyways. Gracie always gets mad at me because she's like, Ashley, and we're supposed to be good feminists. It's okay. You can't say the word bitches. And I'm like, oh, but it's like my favorite and least favorite word all at the same time.
Does it take the edge off of it if you say batch?
Maybe.
Feels like a little bit of edge.
Yeah. Maybe I'll do that instead.
All right, batch. All right. Aislene, how about a favorite drug or vice or guilty pleasure?
It's anime. It's anime.
Yeah.
Like my guilty pleasure is anime because there's people out there that just, they hate it. They hear that you like anime and they like get this idea in their head of like, I wear it on my sleeve. Like, I mean, I've got a big friggin' tapestry in the background with a moon on it. So I'm at that point where I do not care, but, yeah, it's always been like a guilty pleasure, probably since I was 16 years old. Cause I went through spurts in my life where I did not tell people that I loved anime because I was like, oh, they're going to think I'm fucking weird because I love anime. But you know what? Life's too fucking short to like, you know, give a fuck about that. It's the same with, cause like my other, you know, vice, I would say is food, right? Cause like I know that I'm fat, but that doesn't bother me. It's like, because there is a lot of hate when it comes to people who are fat, right? Like people get it in their head that, you know, fat people are like lazy or, you know, whatever, like that they're not taking care of themselves. But like there's so many more issues than just that. Like you don't know somebody's past. Mm-hmm. So, but yeah, like it's like one of those things that like used to bother me and used to be like, you know, something that like you couldn't even say fat in front of me, or like it would like, you know, bring back like terrible memories. But like I'm at a point where I do not care. I call myself fat because it's just a description word and I don't see it as like this bad thing. And there's been times where I'll say that in front of people and I'll be like, oh yeah, like I'm fat. And they're like, but you're beautiful. And I'm like, I didn't fucking say it was ugly. I said it was fat. Like, are you fucking kidding me?
It's like, oh, like, oh my God.
Like how did we get to this point where like if you call yourself fat, you're saying I'm fucking ugly.
Damn
like,
it.
Holy shit. Maybe start reworking your thinking and not thinking that all fat people are ugly, because holy shit, gosh. Like that's
mask off, dude. Yeah.
Yeah.
The These things are the we same say that are when like, we're trying to console each other. Oh my gosh.
But they're really like the same people who are like, I'm just caring about like your health. And it's like, you don't fucking know anything about me. Like you don't know my health situation. Like I have lupus, but it's not because I'm fat. It's because I have lupus. Like anyways. Yeah.
Well, that sucks. I'm sorry you got to deal with that shit.
Oh, no. I mean, like, everybody's got their things that they have to deal with. And it's like, you just kind of have to, like, wear it on, like, you have to be unapologetic with it. Yeah.
I like that. And I think that fits in with the anime. And honestly, this is good life advice. We might have been able to tuck that in before. Just you do you. You do you. You know?
Yeah, because there's people out there that are going to love you for who you are. And there's going to be people who think that you're, you know, cringy or like whatever. They're going to think something. But do not even think about those people, because life is way too short to even think about that stuff. Like, and again, it is easier said than done, because like I pretty much probably wasted my entire 20s being worried about what other people thought, right? And there's still like sometimes inklings that come in where it's like, you know, like I get worried about what other people are thinking, but you kind of have to like push it away and be like, no, fuck you, brain thing in the, you know, back of my head. Like, I don't know, the little, you know, asshole voice, like tell that person to get lost and, you know.
Yeah, it's like the brain does this thing where you try to think what other people think about you, but you never, ever really know what they think about you. They can literally even try to tell you, but you really don't really ever know what they think about what you. But what you do know is what you think about yourself.
Yeah.
So, I mean, focus on that.
I think that's why a lot of people like project things, right? Because like they know stuff about themselves and how they act. Capitalists do this all the time. They'll project things because they're like, well, I would steal from the government or whatever. And you're like, yeah, but most people wouldn't, surprisingly enough. Like, you know, most people are pretty honest and they're not gonna, you know, but that's a whole nother conversation.
Love it. How about a sound? Aislene, a sound or a noise that you love?
ASMR. I like ASMR, but also like there's something called Frisian, right? And it's when you're listening to a song that is so good that it like gives you brain tingles. I don't know if you've personally experienced that.
I don't know. Maybe. I don't know. I don't
but
think
like
so.
A song that just like it gets into your being and gives you like these brain tingles, and that's like the forefront of what ASMR is, like what we understood what ASMR is. It's called Frisian, right? And then like ASMR kind of came around, and it's kind of always been around. We just didn't really have a name for it until recently when people started to be like, oh yes, I also sometimes get brain tingles when somebody talks to me. How strange, you know? But I really enjoy listening to ASMR. It helps me sleep at night. I don't quite get the brain tingles as much because I probably listen to way too much ASMR, so might have to stop for a few weeks and maybe I'll get the brain tingles again.
Tolerance break.
It's true though. It's absolutely true. People like it does happen. I mean,
I can see it. Yeah.
I've been like listening to it almost every single night since probably the last 8 years. Like I discovered it when I was overseas in Europe because I was having a hard time sleeping. And then I ended up doing my final like radio project on ASMR, and I ended up interviewing like a lot of really big like ASMR artists now. Like Gentle Whispers and Whispers Red, and there's a few others that like I got to interview, all very lovely people.
Do you think it's like changing the way you like hear the world? Are you like listening for like little tiny sounds everywhere? Like drip, drip, like you, I don't know.
No, I think it's like, for me, it's like it kind of really like depends on like the videos that like work for me, where like other videos work for, you know, other people. But for me, it's just like, I don't know, just pleasing. And it's, you know, it's nice to have somebody like, even though it's, you know, all pretend, but it's nice to have, you know, like pretending you're in a doctor's office or whatever, and somebody's like, you know, checklist or whatever.
Aislene, how about a sound or a noise that you hate?
Probably like the fire alarm, like that sort of, like anything that just kind of. Also, my sister's alarm clock, I freaking hate. Like that one where it's like bang bang. It goes off like 6 a.m. every morning, right? Because she has a hard time getting up in the morning, and I'm just like, Hannah, turn off your freaking alarm! Oh my god. But
get
like
her one of those alarm like watches that like, those are based. Those are based. They like shake like, you awake like instead of your partner.
Like it kind of like goes off, and it's almost like like the sirens for the end of the world
Oh
or
my
something.
gosh.
Like I feel like I gotta jump. It
Yeah.
gives me like nightmare flashbacks of like being in the military and like, all hands on deck, brace for impact. And I'm like, no, I hate this.
That sounds awful.
Yeah.
So, sort of like soul jarring sounds.
Yeah, like those ones. And I think the alarm, like the fire alarm for me was real bad because like before I moved into this place, I lived in an apartment with my brother, and that the fire alarm used to just go off at like all hours of the day. So there had been times where like I was legit having a shower and the alarm would go off. I'd have to like quickly get dressed and try to find my cat and throw her into like the bag so that I could go out, and it would be like, oh, another false alarm. It just happens that this happens all the time. Like, and it'd be in the middle of the winter, and oh god, that freaking
Awful.
fire alarm. Fuck that thing.
Fuck it.
Yeah.
That does sound actually awful. Oh my god, I would lose my shit, dude.
My cat like has like immediately when she would hear it, she would run under the bed. It was almost at a point where I had to like I was able to catch her before she ran under the bed because it happened so much. Yeah. And then she hates going into like because I have like one of those carrier bags for her. She like it's a nightmare putting her in that.
I don't even know what I would do. I would panic. All right, Aislene, some of these graphics are going to be wrong. I want to get to the next question here, and some of them may not have a graphic because I forgot to make those. So let me skip to the next question that I am going to ask. I'm going to skip the curse word. I'm going to skip these. We talked about it earlier. Okay. So, Aislene, let's talk about reincarnation. If you were reincarnated as a plant or some other animal, I don't know, what would you like to be?
It's a good question. Probably like a tiger or like, or plant wise, I would want to be like one of those old oak trees or something that just like hangs out in the middle of the forest. Like one of those forests that like nobody really goes to. And, occasionally somebody goes walking by, right? Like that's fine. But, yeah.
Old growth forests, beautiful places. Love it.
Yeah.
Love it. All right. I think I have 3 more questions. The next one. Yeah. Let's say you passed and you found out that heaven and God exist. What would you like to hear them say when you arrive at your version of the pearly gates?
I guess welcome, maybe. But see, that's the thing, because I don't really like, I'm not really afraid of death. Like some people are absolutely terrified. I absolutely used to be afraid of death, but I don't know if you've ever watched like Ask a Mortician, like that YouTube series. She's great. She talks about
seen
death.
One of those episodes, yeah.
Yeah, but like she talks about death like it's ain't nothing, right? Like it's really fascinating, and that's really helped me like not be afraid of the whole idea of death, because I don't know what's gonna happen next. Like I don't think a lot of us have no idea, right? I guess like the idea of like the version of heaven, I would just hope that like that I would be welcomed in and it wasn't, like a gated community or anything. Like none of that shit, right? We all die and we find out that the Republicans were right. No. Like that would be terrible. But because we all know that they aren't. Like, God, they can't even read the Bible right. It's kind of a joke. But
sure.
because because we study with
Right.
the Atheist Bible Study like once a week ish. And Gracie usually like picks it because she knows way more about that stuff.
Okay.
Like I was raised Catholic, but my parents never really made us go to church.
Yeah.
Like the only stipulation was we had to go to Catholic school.
Oh.
So I went for like about 9 years. Yeah. And then once I know, it was terrible.
Church or Catholic school. I don't know if I have the choice. Jesus. Yeah. Jesus, literally.
Yeah. I mean, like, it wasn't the worst thing ever, but like, we didn't have to wear uniforms or any of that. Like, they didn't really put that in. But in Ontario, it's very weird because the Catholic system is also getting government funding.
Oh.
Where the public, because it's the Catholic schools, right? Yeah. And then they have the public schools, and they both are like separate school boards. And it's very like, but they're in like a public system. It's very strange. Turns out that's not normal. No. I didn't realize that until, I got older, and it was like, because here in Nova Scotia, like they don't have Catholic schools. There isn't like that switch where like you can go to the Catholic school or you can go to the public school. So yeah. So we didn't really get a choice because my grandmother was Catholic, right? And she wanted us to go to church, but my mom didn't want to send us to church. So she was like, okay, I'll send the kids to Catholic school, is like, the thing. So, but I used to...
She didn't make a deal with you. She made a deal with her mom.
It's true.
That's what happened. Yeah. That was a deal. Yeah.
Compromise. Yeah. I hated the mass though. Like that was the worst part. And you don't really even had, like, I didn't really have a choice. Like I got my confirmation at like 12, 13, right? But you didn't, like, that was just part of the system. Like everybody was going through that, like in the class, except for like, one or two people, right? And it's probably because like they were probably Jewish or something, right? So, or like their parents like opted out. Like it's not really quite sure, but so I went through the confirmation, learned all the sacraments, the whole bit, right? But like I made this decision at 12 years old. Like I didn't know what the heck was going on. Like they should not be giving that to a 12-year-old to decide if they want to become a quote unquote adult in the church. Like that's ridiculous.
Sort of isn't surprising they don't understand the concept of consent.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah. My next question has to do with Karl Marx. If Karl Marx rose from the dead and you told him what you told me here today, what do you think Karl Marx would say?
This fucking bougie bitch thinks she's a tanky. Holy shit. Fuck.
You think he'd call you a bougie bitch?
Yeah, no, 100%. I don't think he would use quite those words, but like I know that I'm pretty bougie, like when it comes down to it. And I really have no excuse other than I like the finer things in life and I want everybody to have those. So I'm all about equality, everybody gets to go to the spa instead of the gulag. But some people get this the bronze package instead of the gold package.
Oh my gosh. Brilliant.
It's like the dumbest joke ever, but I absolutely love it. And I make it quite often where I'm just like, if somebody reactionary says something, I'm like, they're getting the bronze package at the spa. So listen, if you're going to be a good person, then you're going to get this gold package. If not, and like right there in the middle, like I'd give like OAC the gold package, but like Joe Biden gets the bronze package, obviously. This is why I should not be This is why I should not be in politics.
I love
But
it.
yeah.
No, that's why you should be on Twitch. That's good shit. So what would you, my last question for this portion before I turn it over to you in the chat for questions here is, what would you like for Marks to say?
Like to me personally?
Yeah.
Or?
Yeah, he comes back, he busts down your door. Ooh, yeah. Right behind the Kool-Aid guy.
It's so funny because I actually know, I feel so bad, but I've never actually read theory or anything.
Same. I just do the movies. I became a Marxist via YouTube. I challenged myself to it. I'm like, let's see if I could do this.
I should probably watch more videos, but I would hope that he thinks that like the feminist critique is like on the right path, and we're like kind of based, like I'm sure he would offer some pointers and like tips and stuff, but also like it also like comes from the point too that like a lot of what Karl Marx came up with when it came to like the Communist Manifesto, a lot of it was stuff that the indigenous people of North America were already doing. So I mean, like people, well, we tend to forget that part that like, hey, indigenous people actually exist, and they were kind of doing this like way before, and it wasn't until us pesky white people came in and were like, boom, no, this is what you guys are doing is bad, despite it actually being good. Yeah, white people are the worst, man. That's like that's history right there. Yeah. White people being the worst.
Right, and then there's just like different chapters of white people doing bad, terrible things. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's history.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. I love it. Those were 2 new questions I tacked on there at the end. And then what I'd love to do is actually turn it over to you, Aislene, and let me know if you have any questions for me. And I'll also open up the chat. If they want to ask you any questions, you can feel free to ignore any questions you don't want to answer, and you can answer any questions that you do want to answer. I don't have anything left for you, so I'm gonna just turn it over to you, Aislene. Anything for me? You don't have to. I want to give you the chance. I don't want it to be entirely one-sided. Yeah.
I didn't come up with any questions, but like I went to school for journalism, so like I know how to interview people. No, I'm kidding. But I did go to school for journalism, but also, but what would you say is what you're hoping for in the future of like leftist spaces?
I don't know. For me, it's like sort of what I'm trying to do with my own space. And I just like to see more of that, which is I'm trying to build leftist unity, strength, and power, as opposed to just building my brand, as opposed to just lining my pockets. I'd love to be able to get to a place where I can comfortably tell myself, yes, this is my full-time job. I can pay my bills with this and feel comfortable with that. But more importantly to me, I want to turn this into a place where those goals are being met, and I want to see other people try to achieve those goals too. It's just sort of disappointing when I see people who don't do that, and I'm like, why the fuck do you receive as much support as you do? I don't get it. It makes me mad. But with that said, I don't know. Like where I am now with my goals is different than where I was a few months ago. So who knows where this channel will be in a few months? Who knows what my goals will be for the leftist streaming content creating crowd in general. At the end of the day, I'm just one person, and I can only do my work in my corner and try to do that and make influence in that way. But in general, I wanna see us build towards a place where we have unity, as opposed to us like fucking fighting over whether or not whether or not it was Stalin or Lenin or fucking Mao who had the best fucking theory, hold on, Trotsky had some disagreements. Let's talk about that. Like, they're dead, dude. Like, those material conditions are come and gone. We have a different world. We got to look at it as it exists now and fucking come together and move towards socialism and maybe even eventually move towards a little bit of a communism. But at the end of the day, we need to move towards policies that help the most vulnerable people. And as a fractured leftist streaming community, we're not helping that.
No, I think it's, I think you're right. Absolutely. And I feel that there is like more of this side of like Twitch leftism, like because in ourselves, like we're a pretty small bubble, you know, of the like leftist community, right? Where, but I'm seeing more of like, you know, this other side that's not like the quote unquote debate bro dunking on each other, yelling at each other over this, that, and everything else, like culture where we're all trying to do something with it and working together. And I feel like that's the path forward if we're going to do anything and to inspire people. Because there are like, maybe there's somebody in chat right now that's watching this and like, because they're like listening to, you know, all these different streamers, they get inspired to run for city council and end up winning or whatever, right? Because that's the thing that we tend to forget when we're going, well, I don't know what to do. Like, what can I do? Like, there's so much that you can do in your community rather than any other. Like, what's going on in the US, like the, you know, from like the top or whatever in Joe Biden, like, yeah, that makes us mad, but like, there's nothing we can do about that. Like that is, but there's something that you can do in your city to make things better for the people living in your community. And that's where you should start, because that's going to be the actual path forward to trying to, like, you know, make the world a better place. And you going and doing that and like volunteering or raising money or whatever for mutual aid, that will inspire more people, and that could lead to like a younger generation being inspired to get into politics. So it's just like that continuous, you know, cycle of integrating people through good action.
Beautiful. Couple of questions. Maybe here's one from the chat you might want to tackle if you want. Do you have perhaps like a specific policy that you champion, for instance, universal health care or something else? And anything at the top of your list, or any few, you could touch on a few if you like.
So in Canada, for me, it's like because it is a little bit different here. Like one pharmacare in Canada is like the one thing I freaking need more than anything. So I'm like, but that's kind of been squashed down. But the other thing is either like universal basic income and a raise of the minimum wage in Canada, because especially in Nova Scotia, we have some of the like lowest, like it is a little bit higher than it is in the States. Like absolutely, you guys like need your minimum wage raised like freaking ASAP. In Nova Scotia, I think it's just under like $13 an hour minimum wage, but the living wage here in Halifax, where I live, is $21, right? So basically they are still paying poverty wages and starvation wages. Like you can't live on $13 an hour. You can barely, like I make a little bit more than that and I can barely survive. Like Twitch helps me a little bit by, you know, being able to pay for, you know, extra stuff or like some of my other bills. But so that's like something that I champion, is the fact that like we need to fight for a raise of like the minimum wage or a universal basic income, because the corporations and the politicians are not going to do that for us. Okay. They want to keep, the rate down. They want us to be desperate for jobs so that we will just do whatever, and, you know, shut up and stop complaining sort of deal. Right. Like, and also unions, like we need more fucking unions. And like the boomer generation almost vilified unions. Like they were this terrible thing that they're going to take all your money away and do nothing. And it's like, actually, the reason why we have a 40-hour work week is because of unionization, or else we would be working 16-hour days like they did, or child labor would still be a thing in America and Canada, right? I mean, it absolutely is in other countries, because we like to forget about the global south. So that's why, like, don't buy from like, this was something that I learned recently, but those companies like Shein or Fashion Nova or whatever, they're using like child labor to make those clothes. Like, do not buy them. And I know it sucks because like clothes are expensive, but holy crap. Like, yeah.
Ew.
Yeah, it's messed up.
That's absolutely disgusting. All right. Well, honestly, I think we're gonna wrap it up there. Not that that's the where, you know, the topic I want to end it on. But Aislene, this was so much fun. Thank you very much for joining me today. Hold on, let me scroll through these. There we go. Yeah, Aislene, thank you again for joining me today here on the channel. Really enjoyed learning about you, hearing about your story, getting to know you a little bit more. This was a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to round 2. We'll probably have you back on in I don't know, maybe a couple of weeks or maybe longer. But looking forward to having you back on. Maybe we can dig into a special topic or something that you want to pull up, or we could talk a little bit more about have a little bit more time to talk about topical events, things going on, other updates in your life. I'm really looking forward to having you back. Thank you again for having for joining me today and sharing your story and everything. This is a lot of fun, and I just I really appreciate you as a person, what you're doing over there with the Feminist Critique with Gracie as well. Y'all do great stuff. Your leftward bound journey was fascinating to hear, and I think you got a lot of great shit to share with, you know, younger versions of ourselves out there. So thank you again. You goddamn beautiful human. I love your face.
Love your face too.
All right. We'll talk to you next time. All right. Bye, Aislene.
Yeah.
Bye. Hey, YouTube. You're watching a clip from my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/iDanSimpson, where you can follow for free and subscribe for only $5 a month. Thanks for watching.